Look at a map of the world's shipping lanes and you'll see something remarkable: China's maritime empire. It's not built with warships but with cranes, containers, and concrete. Chinese companies now own or operate terminals in nearly 100 ports worldwide. This network marks a fundamental shift in global power. It's more than commerce, it's a deliberate, long-term strategy from Beijing. For decades, China was the world's factory, but making goods isn't enough. You need to ship them efficiently. To secure its economic future, China realized it needed to control the arteries of global trade, the world's ports. By investing in these critical hubs, China is securing its supply chains for the 21st century. Chinese state-owned giants like COSCO and China Merchants Port Holdings have invested billions to build, modernize, and acquire ports. This gives them influence over how these facilities are run and who gets priority. It's a subtle but powerful projection of power. No flags, just control. This is the new reality of global competition, played out on the world's docks. Understanding this phenomenon is crucial to understanding today's world. It's a story of economics, geopolitics, and national security. Many developing countries have benefited from new infrastructure, but Western capitals are wary. Is this just business, or a way to gain strategic leverage? The answer is complicated. China's port empire is still expanding, with new chapters written every day. The world is watching as this maritime story unfolds. To grasp China's port strategy, you need to know why ports are vital to its interests. China's economy depends on trade, over 90% of which travels by sea. Any disruption to shipping routes could devastate China's economy and social stability. Controlling key ports isn't just commercial, it's national security. China's Malacca dilemma highlights this. The Strait of Malacca is a choke point for energy imports, vulnerable to foreign navies. By building ports in places like Pakistan and Myanmar, China creates alternative routes, reducing its vulnerability. These ports also support China's global ambitions, protecting citizens' investments and projecting influence. Friendly ports offer logistical support for Chinese vessels, even if Beijing denies military intent. Controlling ports lets China set technical standards and logistics systems, centering global trade around itself. Ports using Chinese technology become easier for Chinese companies to operate in. It's not about conquering territory, but weaving a web of commercial and technological dependencies. This strengthens China's central role in the world economy. Ports are the linchpin of China's global strategy. China's global port expansion is framed by the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. Announced in 2013, the BRI is a modern Silk Road, overland corridors and a maritime route connecting China to the world. The Maritime Silk Road is the blueprint for China's port empire, linking China to Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. Under the BRI, China has invested hundreds of billions in port construction worldwide. Chinese banks finance, Chinese firms build, and Chinese operators manage these ports. This cycle keeps China's industries busy and expands its global footprint. For host countries, the BRI offers desperately needed infrastructure and economic growth. China frames it as global connectivity and shared development, a win-win. But the BRI is also a tool of statecraft, reorienting the global economy around Beijing. Ports are the nodes of this network, embodying China's ambition to be a maritime power. Each new port deepens China's economic reach and political ties. It's a patient, long-term strategy to reshape the global order. One port at a time, China is redrawing the map. No port better illustrates China's strategy than Piraeus, Greece. Once a struggling, inefficient port, Piraeus was transformed after COSCO invested during Greece's debt crisis. COSCO modernized the port, bringing in new cranes, deepening harbors, and streamlining operations. Container traffic soared, and Piraeus became a key gateway for Asian goods into Europe. By 2016, COSCO controlled the port, turning it into a showcase for the Belt and Road Initiative. For China, Piraeus is the dragon's head in Europe, an entry point for goods that bypasses longer routes to northern ports. This saves time and money, making Chinese exports more competitive. Greece has benefited with jobs and revenue, and has become a strong supporter of Beijing and the EU. COSCO's approach, investment, not warships, turned a neglected asset into a world-class hub. But this success also means a crucial piece of European infrastructure is now dependent on a Chinese state-owned company. That's raised concerns in Brussels about China's potential political leverage. Piraeus is both a model of cooperation and a source of strategic anxiety. It's a symbol of China's growing influence in Europe. The port's story is far from over. Hambantota, Sri Lanka, is the poster child for the controversies of China's port strategy. Sri Lanka borrowed billions from China to build the port, despite warnings it wasn't commercially viable. The port struggled, revenue lagged, and Sri Lanka couldn't repay the debt. In 2017, the government handed over the port and surrounding land to a Chinese company on a 99-year lease. Critics call this debt trap diplomacy, China lending for projects likely to fail, then seizing assets. Beijing insists Sri Lanka initiated the project and that the lease was a commercial solution. Regardless, China now controls a strategic port near India for a century. Hambantota is a cautionary tale for vulnerable nations. It highlights the risks of the BRI for countries with fragile economies. The debate over intent continues, but the outcome is clear. China's influence has grown. Djibouti, at the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, is one of the world's most strategic locations. China began with commercial investments, modernizing Djibouti's ports, and building a railway to Ethiopia. Chinese financing has made Djibouti's economy heavily reliant on Beijing. In 2017, China opened its first overseas military base next to the commercial port. Officially a logistics base, it supports anti-piracy and humanitarian missions, but it's also a symbol of China's military reach. The base allows China to sustain naval operations far from home, near Western military forces. This proximity has alarmed Washington and others, raising fears of surveillance and potential conflict. Djibouti shows how commercial port investments can blend with military ambitions. The Maritime Silk Road is about more than economics, it's about projecting hard power. Djibouti is the clearest example of this dual strategy. China's playbook for building its port empire is flexible and strategic. In developing countries, China often builds new ports from scratch, gaining maximum control over design and operation. In developed regions, it buys stakes in existing ports, integrating them into its logistics network. Chinese policy banks fund these projects, often requiring the use of Chinese firms and equipment. This creates a closed loop benefiting China's economy and giving it financial leverage. If countries struggle to repay, China can negotiate for long-term leases or equity stakes, as in Hambantota. Critics call this predatory. China denies it, claiming loans come with no strings attached. The reality is a power imbalance that favors Beijing. These deals turn economic partnerships into long-term strategic influence. China's approach is pragmatic, adapting to each country's circumstances. The result, a global network of ports under Chinese sway. China's port network expansion has sparked a global mix of cooperation, concern, and competition. For many developing nations, Chinese investment is a lifeline, offering infrastructure and growth. But in the West, India and Japan, alarm is growing over China's strategic intentions. Fears of a string of pearls, naval-capable ports encircling India, fuel pushback. The US, EU, Japan, and India now offer alternative infrastructure programs to counter the BRI. Initiatives like the G7's PGIU and the EU's Global Gateway promise transparency and sustainability. This competition gives developing countries more choices and better terms. China, facing criticism, is shifting to smaller, greener, and smarter projects. The global reaction is forcing China to adapt, but its goal remains maritime power. Infrastructure is now a new arena for global rivalry. China's global port empire is a defining reality of the 21st century. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, China has built a network of commercial and strategic footholds worldwide. This ensures its goods reach markets and resources flow home, an immense strategic achievement. But the implications go far beyond trade. Control over ports gives China leverage over host countries and a physical presence in key regions. As in Djibouti, commercial ports can lead to military facilities, blending economic and hard power. This challenges the traditional dominance of the US and its allies, not with fleets, but with logistics. The world faces a crossroads: China's model or Western alternatives. For developing nations, this competition brings more options. For great powers, it's a new strategic struggle. China's port empire is reshaping the world order, showing how economic power becomes strategic influence. Control of trade routes is as crucial now as ever. The world's docks are the new barometers of global power.